Hi, welcome to another post on the Amazing World of Psychiatry blog. This time I'm talking about what I think is a 103-year-old neuroanatomical mistake. And this is in one of the landmark books on neuroanatomy by Dr. Brodmann. And he was a German neurologist who in 1909 published the localization in the cerebral cortex, which became a tool for researchers on the brain to communicate their findings on the brain with reference to some of the surface landmarks and other macroscopic features of the brain, the large structures in the brain. So to cut a long story short, what I'm doing in this post is looking at Brodmann's description of the insular region. Now, if we look at today's research on the insular cortex, we find this area is really important. It's regulating emotions, it's integrating sensory information, it's regulating autonomic functions like blood pressure. So this is a really important part of the brain. And if we're going back to 1909 and this landmark publication, what I'm interested in is how Brodmann has communicated this. Now, when you read the post, what I've done is spent a little bit of time giving a background on what Brodmann was doing. And to cut a long story short, he analysed the brain using a microscope. So he did a microscopic analysis of the brain, and he communicated his findings in relation to these large structures, these large surface markings on the brain, so that other people could easily identify them. And what happened over time is that people kind of skipped the microscopic analysis bit and just honed in on the landmarks, the surface landmarks. And this Talarak Atlas, which has been really influential in organising brain images from MRI scans, for instance, has used the Brodmann areas, but interestingly has described them using the surface markings on the brain that was used as the basis for the Talarak Atlas. So that's quite interesting. That suggests that this movement to describe it in relation to the macroscopic features has perhaps led to people in general missing these subtle microscopic features. Now, the only problem is, and you'll see this in more detail when you look at the post, Brodmann doesn't actually describe the insular region or insular cortex in terms of Brodmann areas. There's three that are associated with it. That's 13, 14 and 52. Now if we go to 52, what actually happens is he's described that in the temporal region. So if you go down to the bottom of the post, I've actually got a link to another post I've written on the temporal region, which I can quickly show here. So this is the description, and you'll see the para-insular area. Now if we go to areas 13 and 14, what's really interesting is that he just doesn't describe these in humans. He describes them in 4 other species. The first of these is the Brodmann monkey. Now I've taken some footage from Twycross Zoo on this, so I'll just show you very quickly. These are crowned Brodmann monkeys grooming each other. And he also shows them in lemurs, short film here. So these lemurs are really fascinating. They're some of our earliest primate ancestors, and they're able to oppose their thumb and fingers, which means they're able to kind of manipulate objects. Here they've just kind of taken over my camera, and it's really interesting just to watch them because they're exploring this. They're really curious about this camera, and it just shows you how incredibly useful it is to be able to use their kind of fingers, if you like, to explore the environment. Anyway, that's a slight distraction. Anyway, that's one of the species that he described Brodmann areas 13 and 14 in. He also described it in something called the kinkajou. So what I'll do is just get that up here. This is the kinkajou. It's on the Wikipedia site. So kind of cute creature that's found in Mexico and Brazil. Well, this is the interesting bit, because this is what I have found that's slightly novel, if you like. It's what I think is a 103-year-old mistake, and basically in his description, so we're missing a description in Brodmann areas 13 and 14 in humans, and we've got it instead in 4 other species, and in one of these he classes it as the rodents. So in other words, in his analysis he's grouped the ground squirrel and the rabbits together. Now, I'm afraid I'm just being slightly pedantic here, but basically Rodentia is an order of mammals that have continuously growing incisors in the upper and lower jaws, which they have to keep short by gnawing. So again, back to the Wikipedia page, lots of examples of these. Big long kind of list of these, and you won't find rabbits in there, because rabbits are in fact a member of the order, the taxonomic order Lagomorpha. So cute picture of the bunny rabbit, and so there you go. Brodmann's missed out the human insular cortex and instead gone over to 4 other species, and in one of these he has basically made a mistake based on the taxonomic analysis. So really I think the analysis of Brodmann areas 13 and 14 is slightly dubious, and just to add that I covered the insular cortex in another post in 2008 here. It's just some work by Masahiro Nawata in Japan. He did some MRI visualization of the insular cortex and basically came up with some interesting surface markings, slightly off the topic because he didn't look at the microscopic properties of the brain, but still an interesting study in better characterizing the anatomy of the insular cortex. So in conclusion, I think this guy is a great neuroanatomist, a great scientist, but in terms of the human insular cortex, I think his work is incomplete, and neuroscientists need to get back and revisit this work. You can find these stories on the Amazing World of Psychiatry website, which can be found at theamazingworldofpsychiatry.wordpress.com. There are a few things on the website that you won't find here, for instance videos by other people or links to videos by other people, and Also, there will be hypertext links, so you'll be able to navigate to the source for these news items.